everybody. Welcome to the Weatherboys podcast. Thank you for listening. We hope that you're enjoying the show. We're having a great time putting it together, and we feel like we're bringing some extra stories. Like, we've got a lot of stories.
We have a lot to give, and I think the world wants our gifts.
We certainly have a lot to say.
We have a lot to say. We have things to say. And actually, the people have things to say, and I have dumb questions to ask them because they're sometimes confusing topics for me.
If you are new to the Weatherboys podcast, we've been doing this for years now, usually in connection with our stories. But now we've changed the format and we've brought some more guests on, interesting guests.
It's been a year and a day. It's been 366 days.
Since what?
No, it hasn't really. I just like the years because you were like years as if it was like we started in 1972. No, it's good. I love it. It's great.
But this has been a different go round for the Weatherboys podcast. So we bring on guests, and boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
This week's guest is a real lightning rod.
Sure is. I have had so many conversations about this man with so many different people, and the results from everybody I talk to is the same. You're an idiot, Alan. Burn that book. Don't read it.
This man, his name is Aaron Stupple. He is an author. He is a doctor. He is a controversial person with this idea, and I'll let Alan explain it in a second. But let me just tell you what he said to me. He said, I'm thinking about renaming the book, Want to Get in an Argument with Somebody Without Talking Politics? Here you go. And it's absolutely true.
It is. It's personal. It's something that a lot of folks have done. It's about parenting. It's not even new. It's a new book, but it's not a new philosophy. Apparently it's been around for a while. Taking children seriously is at its core. It's what it is. And that's what it is. Taking them seriously. If you have small children, they have really ridiculous requests, and the idea is to take them seriously, address all of their needs. But there's more to it than that. What gets you is that in his book he'll say, like, I let my kids, there are kind of three main points here. I let my kids eat what they want, sleep when they want, and use screens to their heart's desire.
It's not so much take kids seriously, but the idea is...
Well, it is. No, but it is, because if your kids want to be on their screens, he would say, why would you not let them do a thing they want to do?
If you're simply listening to the podcast, you cannot see me rolling my eyes.
That's literally what it is, though.
You can't hear me doing it either.
That's what it is. How is it not?
It is so hard to talk about this, because I asked him in the interview, which you're going to hear in just a second, I said... What you say is, I let my kids do whatever they want. And I said, another way to say that is, I never tell my kids they can't do something that they want. And he said, in a way, kind of. Not entirely the same thing, but in a way, yes, they can eat whatever they want. Mm-hmm. They can play on their tablet as much as they want. They can do whatever they want. They don't even have to go to school if they don't want to.
Oh, yeah. And that's a day-by-day thing. Yeah.
And this is a man who has had success in this world.
And he's not a deadbeat. He is a smart guy, well-spoken.
And a loving father.
Yes, a responsible father at that.
He made the point early in this interview to say, this is not...
Neglect.
It's
not neglect.
It's not neglectful parenting. I am very present with my kids.
Yep.
I just never tell them that they have to do something or that really they can't do something.
It's about persuasion versus coercion.
Explain that.
Well, it's about changing their mind through words. Because so much of parenting is coercion. We are the authority figure. What we say goes, and he just does not abide by that. It's not like, this is the rule, you have to follow it. No, it's, I'm going to use my influence to get you where I think you should be.
An example is dinner time, food with kids.
Yeah.
Anybody who's a parent, you don't even have to be a parent to know that a big fight with parents and kids is you have to eat your dinner, your vegetables before you can get dessert. That's kind of a universal thing. No, you can't have dessert. You haven't even finished your dinner yet. And he says, why? Why make them eat just let them have the dessert. Who cares?
He is a doctor, by the way.
Yeah. And so we really dig into that with him, because it's like, what if the kid just wants to eat ice cream all day, every day? And he says
his kid did. I'll tell you real quick, because we probably should. I could talk about this forever, with just you and I. This very morning, my kid asked for an ice cream cone. I go, yeah, absolutely, have an ice cream cone. We had an ice cream cone 10 minutes before she went to school. And you know what? The world is turning.
I'm having a hard time with this.
Derek is sweating right now.
I'm having a hard time with this.
It was orange creamsicle. Oh, she was so happy. She was so filled with joy.
And his points are, first off, why are you creating conflict where there doesn't need to be conflict?
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is that kids are smart and they will learn.
They will self-regulate.
Yes. And that they might eat ice cream every day for 6 months and eventually they'll get sick of it or they'll say, I don't feel well. However, he does say in his book, which Alan has read cover to cover.
Oh, yeah. Couple times.
And has brought up to almost every person in this building.
Dude, I got a problem. Yeah. I'm like a vegan CrossFitter. I can't stop telling people about it.
Yeah. That's a great joke, by the way. But like fireworks ensue with everybody that we talk to about this. The interesting thing that I find is I am so against it until I talk to somebody else who's also against it, and then I find myself arguing his
steel
points.
manning it. Yes,
yeah, it's so strange. But like when I'm talking to you and you're on the other side, now I really don't like it.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It is.
And yet it's such a fascinating parenting strategy. And especially, and I don't know why this is true, but it just is, the fact that he is a doctor and a successful person in this world does lend a little bit of credibility to it where you say, well, maybe he might be onto something here.
Yeah, the thing I love about it is you can take from it what you want. But I feel like this is going to be an hour on its own. How long do we keep talking, you and me?
Yeah.
I could do it, but we got to talk at the end. I have a lot more to say. Do we keep going?
You're right. We should stop.
We should let him.
Yes. Now here's just a little caveat to some listeners. There is some adult language. We tried to. I did bleep it. We edited out the swearing, but. Aaron, he really gets going about 10 minutes in. The first 10 minutes, it's a little, professional. We're trying to feel each other out. And then finally the gloves kind of come off and we really get into it. So my advice to you is stick with this conversation because we talked to him for 45 minutes and he really gets going.
And also let me say, take notes and tell us what you hate about it. Cause we're going to talk to him again. And I want to bring all of the frustrations, the reasons why we're wrong. He's wrong. The reasons why he's wrong. And I'll bet he'll have an argument. Whether it's good or not, I'll bet he'll have a rebuttal to your argument.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very controversial parenting strategy author, Dr. Aaron Stupple. So Aaron, you're an author, social media presence, but an author of a book that Alan and I have had very long discussions about.
Nice.
Take us through some of your ideology, if you will.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief. Basically, the conventional wisdom is that kids need rules, obviously. Of course they do. They're kids. They don't know how to handle themselves. And, we all want freedom for our kids. We want autonomy. We want them to be able to explore and discover the world. Everybody's in favor of that. But they do need some boundaries, some firm but gentle, limitations and guidance, and parents need to be consistent with that over time. And that's what a reasonable, rational parent is somebody who allows a range of freedom, but has certain places where they limit those freedoms, because the kid can hurt themselves, can get into trouble in the short term. They can get into trouble in the long term. Obviously, they don't know about things like cavities. And, if you just let them do whatever they want with their teeth, then, in their 20s, they're going to curse you for having all these cavities and tooth decay, etc. So it's your obligation as a parent to be hard-nosed on occasion for their own good. It's like a necessary evil. It's a unavoidable evil of being a parent. Necessary evil. Evil sounds a little harsh, but that's the conventional view. And I was very sympathetic to that until I discovered this parenting philosophy really from the 90s. And it's deeply grounded in this philosophy, which we can get into. But the point is really, well, all right, it's easy to say that you need rules, but you just look at families. Some families allow bedtimes whenever. Others lock down the bedtime at 7:30 or 7. Or when does a kid graduate from a bedtime at 7 to 7:30 to 8? Why is it always on the half hour? Why can't it be 7:15 to 7:45? Right? Is 7:45 make or break? Can we do 7:46, 7:47? And then, when you just look at this honestly, you recognize that this is all arbitrary. Parents are pulling this stuff out of their butts. There's no manual when you leave the hospital with a child that says, okay, here's how you do this, right? When you buy a car or a new computer, there's, an operating set of instructions, a quick start manual, but in this, it's and we've been doing parenting for many thousands of years. So it's pretty funny that it's still a dealer's choice, arbitrary set of these firm, rational limits and guidelines. It doesn't sound very rational. And then going a little philosophical, the way this is presented, and I learned this in psychology classes in college, and this is part of the common parlance, is that there's kind of a spectrum of rules. There's fully authoritarian, total control, old school parenting, right? Children should be seen and not heard, and it's just absolute lockdown. Parents are dictators. And, that's widely considered to be a mistaken way to do things. And that's been widely rejected as just too strict and comes with all sorts of harms that should be avoided. But then the other end of the spectrum is presented as total permissiveness. Kids can do whatever they want, and that's obviously been tried as well. And that's got its obvious harms. That really is the same as neglect. A 5-year-old doesn't know how to do food. You got to help them out with food. They don't know how to do how to make their way in the world, how to learn about the world. You got to coach them and guide them, and it's neglectful to just say, it's sink or swim. So the rational view is that, well, it's somewhere in the middle, and this is how we always talk about things, right? The middle ground is the reasonable, rational approach. And extremists, they should be, you don't want to be an extremist. You want to be in the middle. But if you so it's a combination, right? It's not total authoritarian, but it's not total laxity. It's a combination of the two. But if you even to think about that for a second, if one extreme is irrational, totalitarianism, and the other extreme, neglect, is also irrational, why would a combination of the two somehow suddenly be, the sweet spot of reason and enlightenment? That's a quick way of looking at it. And so the thing is, when I talk like this, the immediate reaction is to say, well, if he's advocating no rules, then he must be advocating fully permissive parenting. And I'm not advocating that either. I'm saying, let's just, when something happens with a kid, let's just step out of this question of, do I allow it or disallow it? It's actually just it's not a good question. A much better question is, how do I help my kid get what they're after without incurring the things that I'm worried about? Right? If they want to, the teeth brushing example is what I use in the book. It's like I think one of the simplest, clearest ones. The kid doesn't want to brush their teeth. Why don't I investigate what this is about and see if I can make teeth brushing appeal to them? Right? Maybe they don't like the taste of the toothpaste. Maybe they don't like how the toothbrush feels. Right? Once you say, oh no, I gotta do this teeth brushing rule, you stop thinking about other things, like maybe, my kid would like a Paw Patrol electronic toothbrush with bubblegum toothpaste, and we'll play a little game where, you make your breath smell nice, and you make me faint because you brushed your teeth.
But Aaron, I'm gonna jump in here because everything that you're saying here makes sense to me. It's what Alan told me that you said in the book.
Well, yeah, Aaron, Derek doesn't get riled up very often. And when I first read your book, I first got it at work and I started reading it, and I was moved. I was like a convert. And I told Derek a couple of things. I told him about your three, because it's screens, bedtime, and I think food. And for you. Yep. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm pretty right because I've watched you a lot. You say you have no restrictions on those big three with your children. And sir, you have children, so you're living this life that you are preaching. Yeah. And this sweet boy in front of you, he got real riled up, and he went on a tangent and a tirade. And he does not do that often.
Yeah, and I did not. So gut reaction, and this has got to be true with a lot of the people that hear your philosophies. The gut reaction is, that makes no sense, because I can't let my kid play on a tablet as long as they want to, because your line is, our kids don't have to do anything they don't want to do.
Right.
And then another way of saying that would be, my kids can do anything they do want to do. Is that true, or is that not true with the way you raise your kids? And also explain a little bit, like, how old are your kids? Because that was like my number one question.
Yeah. 7, 5, 3, 1, and 1.
That's whew, that's a lot. That's a lot. You know that.
You guys have kids?
Yeah, 3 here, 2 for Derek.
Yeah, mine are 8 and 6. And Alan, go ahead.
9, and I have twin 6-year-olds. And
Oh,
I love
man.
I love how you bring the toothbrushing thing up, because that's such a common struggle. Like,
That was perfect.
and I love the fact that you when you talk about rules being in place and you define a rule as something a kid cannot opt out of, and you talk about rules limiting potential, that could be a win-win. Like when we have like a rule, you have to brush your teeth. I literally have held a toddler child in a headlock to brush the teeth. You know what would have been better? Probably being like, your teeth are going to be fine if we let you through this one day. And then we work to find a better way. Like, I don't know. I like a lot of what you say, but I still, in practice, struggle a bit.
Yeah, well, sure. I can go back to the question of, so they don't have to do anything that they don't want to do. Can they do anything that they do want to do? I feel my job is to help them do everything that they want to do in a way that doesn't get them hurt, in a way that doesn't set them up with problems. So I view everything that they want to do as, oh great, how do I help this happen? And everything that they don't want to do, I look at it as, if I want them to do it, I look at, how can I solve the problem here, right? Everything that you want them to do that they're not doing is a conflict. Or everything that they want to do that you don't want them to do, that's a conflict. And so parenting is really conflict resolution. And, the decisive advantage that parents have is, I'm bigger than you and I can put you in a headlock and I can force you to brush your teeth. That's one way to resolve this. But I don't think, in one thing I lay out in the book is really looking at all the harms that go with that. There's we can just, I don't know if we want to talk about that now for a minute. Like the headlock that's pretty rough.
How terrified my children were of the headlock. That's an awful thing. That's a terrible thing, Aaron.
It's an awful thing.
I felt immense guilt.
And everybody does feel guilt, but I would say this: one thing is that it gets reason washed. Reason washed, in other words, it gets given the appearance of rationality. It's like, well, they have to. People say this all the time. I'm not going to let my kids, be disrespectful. I'm not going to let my kids act in a way that makes me not like them. I'm not going to let my kids not know math. Right? It's like, okay, it's easy to say those words, but how are you actually going to do it? Right. That's where the rubber hits the road. And the thing, as we know with kids, is you can't pull out a gun and say you're doing this. Right. You can do a headlock, but that already feels extreme and is not a long-term solution.
It won't last for long, nor should it.
and all of those techniques stoke the chances of rebellion. And oh my God, right? You got a rebellious kid, you got a major problem. You can declare that you're not allowing. I mean, how many parents throughout history have declared that X will not happen, and the kid goes and sneaks around behind your back and does it without you even knowing? Good Lord. So do you want to breed an adversarial relationship at the outset, or do you want an absolutely open, trusting relationship? And the beauty is that a high trust relationship means that a kid is interested in your suggestions, like brushing teeth, right? They might take that more seriously. A dictatorial parent who's saying you got to brush your teeth, the temptation to say, well, F you, I'm just going to assert myself just because I want to, because you're always laying it on me.
But Aaron, explain to me if so. An adversarial relationship, I agree with what you're saying, but sometimes as a parent, you have to be stricter with your kids so they don't do something that could get them in trouble, get them hurt, get them sick. Now, right. Alan explained to me the whole, I think was it your oldest, the whole ice cream situation. Explain to people what the ice cream situation was.
Well, I'll give you the... basically, one of my methods of doing this, and there's various methods. The book is not a handbook. It's not a do this, if this, do that, if this, do that. That's how rules work. Rules are this kind of simplistic, easy solution to things where, if I just have a bedtime at 7:30, you brush your teeth every night. That's it.
Doesn't society run with rules? I mean, we can't just ignore rules.
Rules are great. I love rules. So that's a disclaimer I have. rules are great. And as Alan said, the thing with kids is that rules they can't opt out of. There's lots of rules that are absolutely wonderful. The rules of games, the rules of baseball, the rules of politeness. These are great. I love these rules. And I want my kids to engage with them and use them. And in fact, I care about these rules so much that I don't want to spoil the idea of rules and have a kid who's, mad at the world and rejects everything. Or these kinds of people that are just like, screw the system. I don't want that at all. And so the difference is that rules for adults can opt out of. And adults understand. An example I use in the book is when an adult gets a parking ticket, the adult understands that there's limited spaces to park. I'm bringing my car into the city. I got to put it somewhere. I parked in the wrong spot. We can't allow this for everybody. There's meter maids that go around. They hand out tickets. The fine for a ticket is money. The person who puts the ticket on your windshield, they don't give you scolding. They just put the ticket in there. They might even smile and tell you how to pay it. It's like, right? That's not how the teeth brushing headlock situation works, right?
For sure. No.
And adults can stay home. An adult can say, you know what? I'm not driving to town. I'm not even going to go to town, right? If they don't like any given situation, they can just go home and close the door and no one can bother them without a warrant, right? So kids have none of that. Like when it's teeth brushing time, the adult is going to hunt you down and make you brush your teeth. You cannot opt out. And so that's what I'm arguing against. Those forced rules on behalf of that kids endure, but rules in their own and structure, I think those things are absolutely wonderful as long as they're voluntary.
So the idea is to you talk a lot about persuasion versus coercion, and I think that's fantastic. And I sometimes get a little confused because I think it's all about intrinsic motivation to do the thing versus extrinsic. And like you talk a lot about games, and I think that's beautiful, right? The language of children is play. And if we can use play to get whatever we deem needs to be done, that's great. Get too into weeds, and I'm like, where does that line blur? Because if I pay my kid $5 to read, right, or whatever the thing is, I think we would all say that's probably coercion, but that's extrinsic motivation. So I don't know. How do you deal with these edge cases? I guess you're probably going to say there's no manual, and I just figured it out in the moment. It's my guess, and I'm going to get frustrated and be like, "What's your number, man? Can I call you when that happens?"
Yeah, that is true. That is my dodge. Is that you got to figure it out.
But I think that's the truth, though. That's the reality that we have.
That's the reality. The beauty is that this is a much more creative enterprise, right? It's instead of being the policeman for your kid, you are the discoverer. You're kind of like the scientist. You're Galileo, man. You are, and you're gonna fail, right? You're going to not figure it out in time frequently, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. Number one, right? So just creating games that a 7-year-old wants to engage with. Just getting good at that. You start getting kind of the same kind of game. You get a let's leave and go to the car game. You find out what makes a 7-year-old tick and how can I appeal to what he wants. In the same way that we interact with our adult friends, right? Like, I want to go out to sushi and my buddy doesn't like sushi, but you know what? He likes to drink. And so, we find the place where there's nice cocktails and he can have the cocktail and I can have a sushi. And, that's an effete example, but as you get to know a person and you understand how they tick, what makes them tick, it's much more fun, right? That's like a real relationship. And rules are set up a distance. Like you don't know about those things. I don't want to hear it, right? I don't care what your argument is. You're doing it, right? That's the rule framework. It's.
But Aaron, my brain is fully formed. My 6-year-old's brain is not fully formed. So if I say you want to play you can play on your tablet all day if you want. If I'm not going to tell you no, he will play on his tablet all day, every day. And then is that a healthy thing for me as a parent to let him do?
First answer is yes. That's my extreme answer. But just dialing it back a little bit. So how do we distinguish what I'm talking about from just total permissiveness? And what I'm saying is I wait for a problem to manifest itself rather than putting limits on my kids in order to prevent problems, right? So eating is an easy example. Even the screens, right? Like what is so bad about a kid spending all day on playing video games? Right?
Well,
Like
we hear it all the time, and
Yeah.
I can't actually argue, but we hear it. We have that noise in the culture that says it is bad. It's a little dopamine machine that's like rewiring their brain in a negative way.
Can I swear? Is this a swearing?
Can we?
Yeah,
Derek?
go ahead.
Yeah, yes.
I'm this close myself because I got some questions. I got more questions.
Yeah.
Well, like let's just go with the ice cream. That's a simple example, right? Oh my God, the kid's going to eat ice cream all the time. Well, we have ice cream readily available. We have cookies at kid height. It's all out in the open. Chocolate bars. We maintain a stack of chocolate bars. They don't. The cookies routinely go stale. They eat some cookies, but they don't eat all the cookies all the time. They eat. One of my kids does primarily eat ice cream and cookies now, but he just had chicken nugget today. It's his first foray into meat. He eats French fries, pizza. He eats pasta, but he primarily eats ice cream. And like, what is so terrible about ice cream? The point is, I'm going to wait until a problem manifests itself before doing something about it. And right now, he eats ice cream twice a day. He usually eats it for breakfast. I mean, what's so terrible about eating ice cream at 7 a.m.? Like, does ice cream have to come?
I have a question, and I personally, you've changed my life, and I've been so much more lax about treats, and life has been so much better. The kids are so much nicer to each other because they're not fighting against me. And so I personally am like, you literally have changed things in my household for the better. But I hear in my head, somebody saying, you're creating entitled, spoiled brats, giving them everything they want when they want it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, first of all, I've met plenty of entitled, spoiled brats that have had lots of rules, right? And I think the absence of rules and the abundance, right? I talk about this in the book. I think abundance is the recipe for sibling harmony. I actually think my major job as a parent is for my kids to like each other. Like, I think that is like, that's my top priority. Because they're going to deal with each other for their whole lives. They're only going to have me around for half their life. So, an abundance means it's not a war of all against all, right? If there's one ice cream per day, they're going to guard that one ice cream with their life. Whereas when they have as much as they want, they often, they'll give each other the last cookie, or they'll give each other every time they go to the store, they're like, oh, we got to get something for the other kid, and they are very generous. And I think they're the opposite of spoiled. I think spoiled comes from a fear of losing what you deserve, and this whole idea of I get this, I owe this, I'm entitled this. I just buy everything at the store. Like they don't have a feeling that they deserve anything. It's just we all eat food in the house, and we buy the food that the people in the house like to eat.
I need to say, I know it's coming off that Alan is the angel and I'm the devil, but I love you.
That's clear.
Both.
That is what it is.
I want to say that I love you both very much, but I do have questions. So
yeah, go.
Aaron, he said, you talked about the ice cream, but you had your oldest kid in the book. You talked about how for 4 months, all he ate was ice cream because you said you can eat what you want to eat. And that's what he chose to eat for the majority of those months. Is that true?
Primarily ice cream, yeah.
Okay. What about the idea of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? So like if my youth, okay, that's interesting to me because I am open to the idea that it pertains more to me as the parent. So like you tweeted yesterday that your kids got in a massive rumble.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were tackling each other, jumping on each other. There was a fight. They handled it in between each other, and all was well. And you just had to watch off to the side, and everything was fine. What if it didn't end that way? What if somebody had fallen into the glass fireplace door, sliced an arm, had to go to the hospital and get stitches? For me, the ounce of prevention would have been worth the pound of cure in that situation. I would have said, stop doing that.
So, oh no, I would have said, get the glass door? What are you doing with a bunch of kids and glass doors around?
Don't be an idiot, Derek.
Okay,
God, what are you doing?
Take the glass door away. Make it a coffee table. It's a sharp end of a coffee table.
Get rid of the coffee table.
Well, wait. What's in your house? There had to have been something that a kid could have gotten hurt. Somebody could have just snapped an arm when they were tackling each other.
Well, that can always happen.
Well, I know. So isn't it my job to be like, guys, stop doing that? Hey,
No.
you can't eat ice cream for 4 months. You're gonna have tummy issues. You're gonna have teeth issues. You need to have a vegetable or a fruit. Doctors tell us we need fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, that's nonsense. Hey,
this is a doctor. We're talking to a doctor right now, dude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I take my kids to the pediatrician. The pediatrician isn't looking. The ice cream eater at the pediatrician, they're not like, oh my God, what are you doing? They can't tell. He looks totally normal. If you eat, I mean, look at kid food. Kid food is all carbs, right? What is the difference between cereal, even a bagel? I'm just talking nutrition for a minute. The difference between a bagel and a donut. After it's in your stomach and gets digested, those are all broken down to simple sugars. They're the same. A bagel, if you look at any diabetic, the carb load of a bagel is the same as a carb load of a donut. The only difference is the donut actually tastes sweet. My mom was all excited that she got my son to eat a bowl of pasta. Like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm like, well, the pasta is just refined carbohydrates. The ice cream actually has fat, right? Like the ice cream will actually stay in the system longer than more satisfying than the pasta is. Not that I care about the pasta either, but it's not that it's just that you're eating ice cream. It's that if you have, he has 2, maybe 3 servings of ice cream for the whole day, and eats a couple other things, that's fine. Like if he's using up those calories in his physical activity, it doesn't mean he's going to get overweight. And as far as like needing vegetables, that the number of kids that have an actual vitamin deficiency or mineral deficiency in a modern diet doesn't happen. So no, he doesn't have scurvy. He's not at risk for scurvy. He doesn't need vegetables. He is ice cream is it's milk, sugar, and eggs. Like those are, I don't know, those are wholesome foods. And the sugar is the same, whether it's refined sugar or refined flour, it winds up being the same. So yes, you can get overweight, but you can get overweight on pasta and bagels as well, right? Like kids get overweight with food rules as well. And the thing is that the rules can actually trigger a kid to get overweight, or trigger a kid to have an eating disorder, or simply have a kid grow up with a fraught relationship with food. How many adults that you know are comfortable with how they relate with food? How many people have food hangups? I would say the majority of people have food hangups. Sure. It's food, man. Like what more basic thing could there be? This is something that you do all day long, that your entire day rotates around, and it's like, I'm not doing really quite so well with this key feature of life. So rules can promote hangups. Rules can cause all sorts of problems. The idea that this food is healthy, I'm a bad person for liking this. My innate nature is greedy, and that is it's all fraught with problems. Whereas eating ice cream in moderation, not that I'm forcing moderation, but the kid doesn't overeat. He eats till he's hungry, then he stops. He doesn't sit there and go ahead.
It is. Well, I was just going to say, it is incredible because I've taken your advice, and I just literally today when I picked my kids up from school, I bring them like one small treat, and I'm like, don't you dare ask for another. But lately, I'm just bringing the bag. I'm bringing the bag, and do you guys know what happened today? My kids, who are sugar hounds, I brought they were the little Debbie's and then some peanut butter cups, and I brought the whole container in there. And do you know how many they ate? Like 1 or 2 or 3, maybe like a little bit more than normal. And there was harmony because I wasn't saying, no, you can't have more. And therefore, the big sister was being kinder to the little sisters because she wasn't mad at me for like limiting. It's been honestly revelatory for me to see how many of my fears have been unfounded. Now, I'm not 100%. There's still some things I'm concerned about, but that's the bit. Go ahead, Derek. What do you got?
Okay, okay, I understand the reasoning with it, with the food, with the screens. Where does this line of thinking? So I have 2 questions and one broader question. Where does this line of thinking fall when it comes to interacting with others? Because do you enforce manners? Do you have your kids say please and thank you? Do you encourage them to call women ma'am and sir? Where does it come with manners and other people? And where does it come in with education and their schooling? Do you make them do their homework? Do they have to follow their teacher's directions?
School, they're unschooled. I could talk about school of its own thing, but yeah, I really can't. Our oldest went to Montessori school, then she went to kindergarten, and then she started not liking it, and she didn't want to go to first grade, and so we're not even really homeschooling her. We are unschooling her, which means she has a day of freedom and discovery, and she's still interested in reading and writing. She's very interested to learn how to read because it's very useful. It's useful to navigate the video games and the YouTube and whatnot. She wants to write things to people. She likes reading books. She likes reading comic books. And so that's moving apace, but it's only according to what she's interested in. I think reading and writing are so important that I don't want her to have a hang up or a complex about it. I don't want her to think that reading is something that you do to impress the adults in your life. And then once you impress them, you don't touch any more books, right? Because you just want to it's about the reward. It's not about the activity itself when you're doing it for others. So that's my approach to education, is that I think education is so important. Learning is so important that I don't want to spoil any given subject by forcing them to do it. I could talk more about that later, but
can I ask,
yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you, I have a question about education. You're a very intelligent individual, and as is your wife. Yes. I sometimes wonder if regular folks, there's a genetic, I think there's a genetic component to innate ability to learn. I just wonder if, I have no doubt that this works harmony at your house. Well, there are fights, obviously, but in general, I wonder if it's applicable to the regular folk.
I think absolutely. I think any kid that's forced to learn something is not learning that thing well, and is developing some. Come on, how much do you remember from high school? I used to be a high school teacher.
Nothing.
Not a goddamn thing. The periodic table.
Can you work through my anxiety then here? Because I have children in first grade right now. And we get in these reading fights, and to hear you say so casually, she's interested in reading and writing sometimes. In the meantime, I'm like, okay, I don't ask for much, but I'm like, all right, 10 minutes a day. We're just going to go through these flashcards and read these little books. And sometimes I do it well and I can get them into it, but sometimes I can't. And then parents, we do this thing, you all know this, where we flash forward to 10 years from now and they're destitute because they can't read. Do you never have anxiety about this, sir?
No. Do you know any adults that can't read?
I don't. You're right. Yes, you're right.
They'll figure it out. And who's reading Moby Dick? Nobody's reading Moby Dick, right? People read what they have to read, and that's it. Maybe they read some articles on it's increasingly less and less, right? Reading is not something that people do and luxuriate in. And the people who do that love reading, which is great, and they get really good at it. So no, I don't. I think reading is fetishized. It's all about these metrics and milestones. Kids that read earlier do better in this, and then they do better in that. Well, no, because their parents make them do it, and right. And the tiger moms are forcing them to be super achievers. No kidding. Kid doesn't need to learn to read till they're 7, 9, 10. What magical thing happens? I know a lot of people disagree with this, that the neuroplasticity and their ability to learn and everything is this tight window before you're 10 years old. But I think there's plenty of time. There's plenty of reason to read. Reading is so useful that any kid who's given the freedom to explore the world is going to want to learn to read, and it's really not that hard. And when you want to do it, it's extraordinarily easy. I think all kids, it's not an intelligence thing. It's simply an interest thing. People who are interested in stuff can learn like the Dickens. And that's what I think is most important, is to promote and support interests. And what school does is it tells you that your interests don't matter. Your interests are frivolous. Those got to be put aside, and you got to do your worksheets. And, this isn't math. Math isn't doing a worksheet. Math is like using a ruler and cutting boards to build a deck, and measuring and how many boards do we need, and geometry. And Go ahead.
But Aaron, but the world says we need to do it this way. Like the world is set up for us to succeed in that way. The world tells us you do well in grade school, you will then be set up to succeed in high school, and then if you're successful there, you will go to a good college.
Right.
And then if successful there, you will get a good job and you will make a lot of money, and then you will have the life that you're supposed to have.
And we know
yes. Okay. Yes.
That works for a select few who love that and are very good at it, or don't even love it, or scared and work off, right?
Sure.
But for the majority of people, you get on the job training, right? The majority of people learn how to do what their profession is on the job. I mean, I'm speaking from medicine, and quite frankly, the vast majority of medical school is irrelevant. I couldn't believe it when I was actually practicing clinical medicine. I was like, they're like, yeah, well, that stuff you learn in med school, like, nah, it doesn't actually work that way. Like, yeah, holy man. These are processes for weeding out and selecting for the diligent people who will show up on time and do what they're told and have the basic skills.
Yeah. More sheep-like than thinking using your own brain. I do 100% agree with this. Now, earlier when we were talking, you said that you think one of your primary jobs as a parent is to get your kids to like each other. Yeah. I think it's awesome. I think one of my primary jobs as a parent is to teach my kids not to be.
Yeah. You were asking about politeness in other people.
Yeah. And so this is a thing that I do struggle with because I lived in the South for a few years, and I loved it when I heard little kids say ma'am and sir. As soon as we had kids, my wife was like, we're not doing that because there's no important reason for that. And so I relented on that. Where do you stand on all of this? Do you correct your kids if they're being rude in public to an adult?
So I want to answer directly. No. I value politeness exceedingly high. I think politeness is absolutely crucial. I want my kids to be polite and courteous. The question is how? Does forcing a kid to say thank you teach them graciousness? Gratitude.
No,
it doesn't. And in fact, it teaches the opposite. It's like, oh God, right? I got to say thank you. It teaches them to go through the motions to please the adults. It doesn't teach them the subtlety of expressing gratitude. Gratitude is, like everything else, a very subtle thing. And I want
same with I'm sorry.
Exactly. Jesus Christ, how hard is it to apologize? It's hard. So you want them to learn what the apology is for. And so you don't want to confuse it by apology is saying this magic word that makes the offense go away. Like that's not really it, right? And so if the parent is saying you have to apologize and the kid doesn't understand what this is all about, all they know is like, ooh, I'm just shameful. Something bad happened. I don't really get it. I say sorry and it kind of goes away. Like I don't want that to happen. I want them to understand what these things are for. And so the way I teach my kids is that my wife and I are polite to each other, and we're polite to our kids. People talk about modeling a ton. You can model being reasonable and polite with your kids, and they understand. Everybody thinks their kids are special and all. It's just anecdote, but my kids are extremely polite. They say please and thank you. They express when they mess up, they express regret. My oldest, the 7-year-old, is very good at putting words to it. And that she's 7, I'm able to explain to her, the way you said that doesn't sound right? The way you said that doesn't match what would be appropriate in this situation. And she can kind of understand it. My son has a very short temper. And I'm starting to get to be able to explain to him, again, because I'm never forcing him stuff, so he's open to what I'm saying. I was explaining to him that certain things make sense to get mad about, and certain things don't. Right? He gets mad and like, all right, that's you shouldn't be mad in that circumstance. But he doesn't quite get it. And how many adults don't get it? Right? Like,
for sure.
These are not easy things to understand. So you could still explain them to them explicitly, but wait until they can kind of get it. Wait until they are kind of interested in this thing. And in other words, let their genuine expressions of gratitude speak for themselves. And so when my kids do something, if they cause an offense to an adult, I apologize for them. I say, I'm so sorry, right? He didn't mean that. And, but I don't make the kid apologize. I'm just going to wait until they can figure this stuff out.
I love your Amazon reviews are so interesting to me because there's so many 5-star reviews and so many 1-star reviews. My favorite, I told Derek this earlier. I'm sure you've read it because you'll respond to these on Twitter. Maybe you did this one. The title was, "This book is a guide for how to produce demons." And I said, that's really funny. That's very funny. Why do parenting is so personal? Your oldest, you said 5 kids.
Yep.
Kids, and your oldest kid is not yet an adult, and so people, I know some people have said you don't actually know because there's no data, and I love your response to that. It's not about the data.
Yeah. It's not about the outcomes. The kids are right. We interact with other groups in society and in our lives, and we don't worry about. I mean, we want the best for our siblings. We want the best for our parents. We want the best for our spouses and our friends, right? But we don't interact with them in this kind of transactional way where we're trying to achieve the best, right? We're just living with them and being with them, right? And the relationship in the here and now is what is paramount. And of course, we'll, do what it takes. We'll help out. We'll do favors. We'll talk to them about things we're worried about on their behalf. But we don't say, I'm going to interact with you in a way that's going to work out the best for you. But with children, that's what we do all the time. It's like, well, how do we interact with them? Well, it depends on how they turn out at the end. Right. And if they turn out well, then that was a good interaction. What if it's a bland, kind of empty, mistrustful childhood, but they wind up being very successful? That's a disaster. They're going to turn out how they turn out. They're their own person, and it's not our job to manage them and get them to become a certain way.
I'm fascinated by the entire conversation, and I do think that there's a lot of value in if you had to boil it down a little bit, what I'm taking away is chill out a little bit, chill out and let them learn through the act of just of living and existing. Is that how you would, Aaron, in a way? One of my big questions that I wanted to ask, what is your ultimate goal parenting this way?
Yeah, so just like I said, it's not really a goal oriented thing, right? What is your goal with your spouse?
To have a loving meaning. Well, no. To have a loving, meaningful, respectful, happy life.
Yeah, right. To have a great relationship, right? You don't have outcomes. You don't have outcomes that you're trying to achieve with your spouse, and it's the same thing with my kids. It's not. It's have a meaningful, loving, full relationship with them. I want them to be happy, but I'm not trying to engineer their happiness. I want them to be independent, but we're not having independent trials or classes. I think I want them to, I want them to utilize their creativity and be productive in some way, to have a fulfilling life. Just the very basics. And I think there's more avenues to mess that up. I think their inherent interests will drive all of that. Their interests will make them knowledgeable about the world. Their interests will make them proficient at various things. They will become expert in their areas of. I want them to have passions, and then I want their passions to be how they support their livelihood.
I like it. It's interesting when you think about it that way. When you think about it comparatively speaking with adult relationships, my only thing, it's hard for me, Aaron, and Alan knows this. It's hard for me because I want to say, well, it's my job to teach them that. It's my job to do that. I know we got to let you go. We've been talking for about 45 minutes. Alan, I'll let you wrap it up.
I don't want to, but Okay, we will. I just, you said chill out, Derek, in that last thing you said. And I think that's accurate, but I also don't think that this way of parenting, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is necessarily easier. I've found that in my brief time, I read your book maybe a month ago, and I've found that it's both more rewarding and, there have been some easier outcomes, but some of it has been harder because it is more about win-win. It's about relaxing the rules, not to find a solution, a creative solution that works. And it's so incredible. It's like magic how when you don't have or maybe when you do have a tight rule, like creativity just fades away. I don't know. I always thought it was just me. I tense up and appears if I allow it to. I mean, again, to be clear, there are still times I cry because it's hard, but it's better this way.
Yeah, I would say this, Derek. You said just chill out. That I wouldn't say it's just chill out, although I always advocate chilling out. But it's not about saying like, oh, where am I in between these two extremes? Maybe I'm too far on the authoritarian and I got to chill out a bit. I'm not saying that. I think one way to think about it is just give yourself 60 seconds, right? Like if the kids are horsing around and you're worried about them smashing into the coffee table, like think for 60 seconds. Like, do you have to drop the hammer now? Can you think of like, actually, if I move the coffee table, then then they're not going to smash on that. Like, what am I worried about here, right? And just like give it a minute to see if you can think of some alternative tweak to make.
Yeah, and this philosophy is not. You don't need to go 100%.
You don't have to go 100%.
You can take a little bit here, a little bit there.
It's about opening up, just as you're saying, Alan. As you open things up, you start to realize, like, oh wow, actually, let me try this, and then that fails. You say, okay, I'm not going to do that next time. I'll try something else.
And we should say the book, The Sovereign Child. When I bought it, it was $1.
Yep.
This is a very reasonable thing to get your hands on.
Yeah, the price went up to $8. There is a free PDF online. If you go to the website, sovereignchild.com, the PDF is free.
There you go.
You guys have given me a lot to think about. Wait, what's coming to say that apart again?
The audiobook will be out next month. Fingers crossed.
Did you voice it? Are you voicing it?
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Okay. Fantastic.
Aaron, thank you. This has been fantastic. I don't like it when the guest likes Alan more than me, so I'm having a hard time with that. But I hope that we can come to a reconciliation at some point, and I can be your favorite child.
Yes,
maybe one day.
We'll work on that.
One day.
Yeah, I felt I was uncomfortable with the fact that he obviously he loved you because
hey, I'm Team Aaron.
You were Team Aaron, and I felt like he was the kindest, one of the kindest men in the world
for sure.
He didn't dislike me, but it did feel a little bit more combative with me and him because I struggle with these concepts.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that a lot of folks are going to see this and think that it wasn't combative enough. Because I think most people will be like, no, you should have pushed back harder. And maybe, and we will next time. And to be clear, like I don't implement this thing completely.
But you do.
But I do. I am a lot more lax since reading the book, for sure. And it has led to a much more harmonious household. And here's what someone's saying right now. Oh, well, you're just placating your children. Why not give them what they want? I do the food. I really do. I let them eat mostly what they want.
Because
and I'll tell you,
can't give them
and
everything.
I'll tell you, you don't love your child.
We can't give them everything they want.
Love their child.
Do you get everything you want all the time?
Hold on, the food thing real quick.
Okay.
I will come back to this. The food thing. I let them eat way more. I still say no sometimes. I do. But I let them eat way more like what we would all call junk. And they don't really eat too much of it. They get sick of it. And two of my kids still will prefer vegetables.
I know.
So there's this idea, there's this fear that we have that, again, Aaron said it. There's a fear that if we give them freedom, they will abuse it. And while there may be some abuses, that's what learning is. When you self-regulation, do it on your own.
I tried a bit with this after we interviewed Aaron, and we interviewed him a few weeks ago. So I've given a few weeks effort to not regulate screen time as much because we've been very dictatorial.
Where are you going with this?
Dictatorial with the screen time.
Yeah.
And so we said, maybe there is something to be learned about being able to be on your screen. Well, then a new study came out from XYZ, and where my wife and I are easily influenced, and we're chopping down on it because my son. But our experience was he did abuse it, and he was becoming a bit of a screen zombie, where he wouldn't listen, wouldn't react, and he would just go on it anytime he wanted, and I didn't like it.
So here's the thing. First of all, you and your wife are great parents. I've seen you guys parent probably more than anybody outside of me.
Thanks.
And you guys are great parents. And this is a tricky thing because it is so personal, and we do get defensive because this is the most important thing in our lives, to parent well. So you parent great. But when you say he is stuck in it, he is, how did you describe him? He's zombie-like.
Yeah. He'd wake up, he'd walk downstairs, he'd grab his tablet, he'd sit on the couch, and he would just morph into the couch.
You know when we talk about flow state? Are you familiar with that? Like,
no.
You're so, like, flow state. Like, that's like in the, like, it's like you're in the flow. You're engaged and engrossed with something that you're passionate about, right? It's like where all the other thoughts in your head are gone and you're focused on the one thing. Whether me and you are working on a story, or maybe you're golfing, or you're playing baseball. These are sports you like, right?
Sure, yeah.
Flow state. This is this thing that people he's in flow state. Why do you get to say that this thing that he's doing, that he's so engrossed in and he loves it, is such a bad thing?
Because there is science behind the fact that the game, he's playing one particular game called Dragon City, which he loves, and all he's doing is clicking on things that are blinking, and and moving on to the next thing. So he's shortening his own attention span and doing potential damage to learning down the road, because he's teaching his brain is being taught at this point short things with flashy lights and dingy noises, like a slot machine, is what is that's feeding the dopamine. That's the hits.
Well, yeah, Aaron would, and we'll ask him that. He would, we probably did ask him about this. He would poo-pah that. He would say no. He would, and I don't know. I have that same impulse.
Yeah, it feels like Aaron's argument would be, oh, well, he'll eventually learn that that's not fun, and he'll put it down and move on to something else fun. But the risk is so high, and that's what I talked to him about in the interview, is like the risk reward is like the risk is so high that you could be screwing him up, and you don't know for 10 years.
Well, here's my frustration with, you mentioned that study that came out that then, creates this deep anxiety within you and your wife.
Yeah.
I feel that same thing. When in this new study that says screens are bad, we're ruining our children. Yeah. The moral panic of the day is that. Mm-hmm. I would argue that is a terrible thing too, because like you and I had a discussion the other day, and at the end of it, you were like, wouldn't you say that each parent knows their kid best? And I was like, yes. I would just argue that like the stakes aren't that high, because they aren't, because you loosened the reins and then you tightened them when you thought that it was appropriate. And I could push back and be like, you probably didn't have to tighten them. And I don't really know, because I wasn't there, so I couldn't know. And so my point is, like, I don't know that the stakes are that high, because you're not leaving him alone to his devices for the next 10 years. And then I'll check in with you, buddy. You know what I mean? You're there with him the whole time.
Yeah. So this is a great conversation.
Yeah.
This is absolutely the reason we want to have Aaron back. So please, if you're listening to this podcast, what's the best way to reach out to us? Instagram, maybe?
Instagram, Facebook, send us a letter.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
a carrier pigeon, we'll get it.
Anything. Yeah. Just tell us. Yeah. I mean, don't hold. I know people are going to be angry about this.
Comment in the comment section.
We do have comment. Yes.
YouTube and Spotify.
Yes.
Drop it in the comment section, because we do want to ask Aaron when we do round 2. Some of these questions from you guys. So
yeah, but I just love that you can take what you want from it, what little bit or as much as you want from it. And I would never proselytize to somebody, because my children are young. Parenting is an experiment, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know the results.
I know, but so is Aaron, and he's got 5
I know.
Kids.
He is. Yeah, he's a brave dude.
It's brave to write that in a book. But okay, all right, we got to wrap this thing up. So thank you for everybody for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels on YouTube. Smash and subscribe.
Smash and subscribe.
On YouTube, we're on Spotify, and of course the Fox Local app, where the entire library of Weatherboys content lives. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys next time.